deadline live stream. Hope you guys are doing well. Of course, we have got the deadline in about an hour and a half or so. And of course, the first game is Nottingham Forest versus Man City. So we can stick around, see if we get any Liverpool team news, but the important thing about this stream is going to be answering your questions going into this game week 28 deadline. I'll go through my team, my current captaincy thoughts, of course, the way I want to roll my team out over the next few weeks with that important blank game week in 29. But as I mentioned, the whole point of these live streams are making sure that we answer your questions. So hope everyone's doing well. I see Gordon, I see Tor in the chat, Gary, hope you're all doing well. Get your stuff in the chat, let me know where you're tuning in from in the world, and of course, any questions that you do have, that's the most important thing. Worth noting, I'm pretty much locked in on my team. Usually I'm on these streams panicking like a madman, making last minute decisions, looking out for team lineups. Not the case today, unless of course we get anything surprising crop up in the next hour or so. I will stick around on Twitter to see if there's anything that crops up. Of course, Salah news might dictate things, but as of right now, I cannot see anything. And spoiler alert, he has my captain right now, captain's the armband. So, Gordon, what's good? Congrats on 20k. Thank you, mate. Yes, we hit it maybe a week or so ago. So thank you guys so much for getting there. It was a bit of an end of season goal. So the fact we've hit it in March is awesome. Tor, hope you're doing well. Gary, morning, mate. Cheekster, as always. Rob, hey there from Ireland. Rob, hope you're doing well, mate. Roro, yo, 20k subs, well done. Thank you, Cheekster. And Chris, we've got the first question of the day asking, start Kirkez or Robinson? Now, this is a really difficult one because I would argue both don't have the ideal fixture. Obviously, we have Kirkez away against Spurs. Now, on paper, that does sound like a tricky game, but we need to understand that Spurs are midway through a Europa League first and second leg, and they lost that first leg. Also, have got some injuries in the team, and feel-good factor's not really there, whereas Bournemouth have had plenty of rest in preparation for this game. Robinson, on the other hand, away against a Brighton team who are starting to click a little bit. Ever since that loss against Nottingham Forest, I think it was like 7-0, wasn't it? It feels like they have started to find their groove a little bit. Personally, I think I'll be leaning more towards playing, controversially maybe, Kirkez than that of Robinson. I think Robinson maybe has more attacking potential, but I personally think I'll go for Kirkez, and maybe just think Spurs are going to be really poorly prepared for this game. Purple State, hope you're doing well, mate. Benny, hello from Australia. Where? Let me know the time, Benny. What is the time in Australia right now? Hope you're doing well. Should I hold Cunha for this week so I can upgrade him to Haaland next game week? Yeah, so first, Benny, I hope we do well. I am in a similar spot to yourself where I own Cunha. Going into this game week with a player that we know is ruled out for the next few weeks. It's a difficult one because you ask yourself, I want to get rid of this guy now because his price is going to fall. But of course, this game week is difficult because we don't have a route to Erling Haaland in this game week because he's away against Nottingham Forest, and in order to get Erling Haaland, usually you got to get rid of somebody quite important like a Cole Palmer, a Salah, and Isak, and it doesn't really feel right doing it this game week because of their fantastic fixtures. So if your team looks fine, I personally think waiting until the following game week to have him as a bit of a cash cow for Erling Haaland would be my choice. But of course, if you're in a position where your team's looking really bad, then maybe the decision is actually to get rid of him this week and then bring in someone like Chris Wood or something and accept that maybe he isn't the one that you'll get into Erling Haaland, and maybe an Alexander Isak is the one that you have to part ways with. Maybe that is a bit more of something. Apologies, guys. Isak or Gibbs White, James, if I had owned both of those, it still would be Isak. Playing on the Monday night, so yes, we are rolling the dice a little bit with whether he's going to start or not, but I also would then argue still more time for him to get over what kind of niggle he does have. So I think, personally, I would be starting Isak, and I think his ownership will still be quite high. And Rose saying Dango or João Pedro. Again, a really difficult one because the return of Evan Nielsen means that Dango's minutes are definitely more at risk now. João Pedro scoring in previous game weeks. João Pedro arguably having an equal fixture to that of Dango. I think I'll go for João Pedro, being on penalties as well. But of course, I think you're rolling the dice on both of those when it comes to minutes. So keep up with the questions in the chat, guys. I want to get up my team right now just to give you a bit of an indicator on where we are currently sat for game week 28. Now, it's worth noting, game week 28, I don't love the look of it. If we come down to the fixtures in particular, First game of the day, Forest versus Man City. Of course, me being not a Chris Wood owner, if you avoid a Chris Wood haul in that game, then straight away the game week starts pretty well. Of course, those managers are going to be looking for Chris Wood to do well. But then after that, the rest of the Saturday games. Brighton versus Fulham, very difficult one to predict. Palace is the real standout one outside of course, Liverpool. Munoz owners, Eze owners, of course, not Mateta owners now after now being ruled out for this game. Then, of course, Liverpool. Could we see rotation? I think we could. But unless we're getting information, I think it's very dangerous to predict what slot is going to do. So I would just keep it as it is for now with your Liverpool team. Brentford feels like a bit of an opportunity against a Villa team who, of course, are sandwiched between a first and second leg of the Champions League. So we could see an opportunity for Brentford players. And then we got the Wolves game without Cunha. Does dampen their attacking ability a little bit. Everton have been on a great run of form. I wouldn't be surprised if Everton were to get a result in that game. And again, those that have Pickford, those that have Mykolenko, I wouldn't be scared about starting them, even though it isn't ideal. And then we get into the Sunday games. I mean, Chelsea-Leicester feels like a good game, but would I be surprised if Chelsea stunk up the joint? I wouldn't either. Then Spurs against Bournemouth. Who knows? I think we're all anticipating Bournemouth to do well in this game, but you just don't know with these sort of games. And then, of course, Man United against Arsenal. I think we all anticipate Arsenal to do well. Of course, they've had a fantastic win in that first leg, so you'd expect them to be able to go into this game fully strength without having to worry about the second leg. Whereas on the other side, you'd argue Man United are in trouble with their Europa League first leg result. They are going to have to focus a little bit more on that. So Arsenal feels good, but outside of the defenders, who else does anybody own? And then we got West Ham against Newcastle, where we're all going to be banking on Alexander Isak to start. So, sorry guys, my chair started to slowly but surely, like the Rowan Atkinson scene in Johnny English, where he just slowly goes down in his chair. So, I don't love this game week, I'm going to be honest with you. So, coming into my team, one free transfer, and I've got like 0.3 million in the bank. I'm pretty content on rolling the transfer. I'll show you some future plans later on to understand why rolling the transfer is beneficial for my team. But Cunha and Vandenberg are issues. Of course, Cunha isn't going to play in the next 3 game weeks. Vandenberg was going to be my blank game week 29 player. Doesn't look likely now, even though he is returning to training. I don't see him playing. And for all these reasons, because my starting 11 actually looks perfectly fine, I'm happy to roll the transfer. Worst case scenario, Mykolenko comes in as a first sub against a Wolves team with no Cunha. Not terrible. I'm fine. Cunha to Wood has been tempting. It has. But I also don't feel like I desperately need Chris Wood against Man City. I think Chris Wood could do well. Enough for me to bring him in? Probably not. So I'm rolling my transfer. That's the current plan unless we get any sort of news about Liverpool. And the captaincy is currently going to be on Mo Salah. I think there is an argument to go for Cole Palmer 100%. I think Cole Palmer gets better minutes. That's it. That literally is it. Mo Salah, I just think, is one of those guys that is going to play every game that he possibly can. I think there's rotating and then there's rotating. And I think we could see from the Liverpool team, we could see Darwin start, Darwin Núñez, we could see Shimikas, we could see Quansah, we could see Curtis Jones. Is he going to do 7-8 changes? Personally, I don't think so. I think Mo Salah is so important to this Liverpool team. I think he gets 50, 60 minutes and then he gets taken off. And weirdly enough, I'm actually more excited about the 60 minutes of Mo Salah than that of the 90 minutes of Cole Palmer. But we have to remind ourselves that Cole Palmer did have a good game against Southampton. 1.4 expected goal involvement. 0.7 against Villa. 0.7 against West Ham. 1.19 against Bournemouth. I don't think it's as easy as just saying Mo Salah and that is it. I do think there is an argument that if you want to go for Cole Palmer this game week, I think you're pretty much locking in 90 minutes, a penalty taker, and against a Leicester team that are just damn right awful right now. If we get up a Leicester player just for a bit of an understanding on their recent results, I mean, look at this. 2 goals, 4 goals, 2 goals, 4 goals. Obviously, Spurs were the ones that gave them the result. 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. I mean, they average 2 to 3 goals conceded per game. This is a Leicester team that are going to concede goals against Chelsea. I'm certain of it. And on another day, Cole Palmer scores 2 goals against Southampton. and nobody really bats an eyelid in terms of whether that was a good or bad decision. Now, of course, I still think going into this game week, people will be going for Mo Salah, but I think maybe we're going off what Palmer should have done against Southampton rather than what he done. And I feel like Cole Palmer is a really, really interesting captaincy pick. I just think it's scary because if that Liverpool team sheet comes out and Mo Salah starting, you are panicking. And for that reason, I just think we can't take the risk with Mo Salah. So I'm pretty much locked in. I'm just going to put a quick poll before I come back into the questions to see who is going to be your captains. Who is your Game Week 28 captain? And I'll put Salah, Palmer. I don't really know who is like an alternative, like maybe an Mbeumo. And if I put other, and if you guys have an other, just put it in the chat. That'd be awesome. If I can spell comments. There we go. If you guys just pop that in the chat and let me know who is your Game Week 28 captain. Be awesome to know who you are going for. I think Salah is going to be the standout pick. Probably rightly so as well. So I'll be super interested to see what you guys are going for. And of course, got my chair. And I'll be super interested to see what everyone's going for there. Again, if you're enjoying the stream, please do consider dropping a like. I don't think I've said that yet. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff will be awesome. Again, thank you for the support as always. So let's go into some more of the chat right now. So JMO saying, I've got Gordon and Hall both suspended, only have one transfer. Who should I take out and for who? Okay, so obviously it comes down to what is the rest of your players. So if you have just 2 defenders and the others are awful, I'd prioritise bringing in a defender. And I like the look of Aït-Nouri to get yourself through Game Week 29. Of course, if you're planning to free hit in Game Week 29, then Munoz is a desperate move. But of course, Gordon allocates a bit more money in your team. So then you would argue, if your defence looks good, get rid of the guy who is way more of your budget, effectively. So Gordon out. And again, it comes down to your strategy, really. If we are looking at alternatives in terms of the midfielders right now, and what I do need to get up is a, give me 2 seconds, let me pop up this a minute, just trying to get the fixtures up just to give you a bit of an understanding on who we could target over the next few weeks. See if that comes up. Okay, yeah, so here's the fixture schedule here. So obviously Game Week 29 is a blank, and it depends on your chip strategy and how long you're looking to hold a player for. But for example, if I was looking to bring in a midfielder that covers me for Game Week 29 and beyond, I'd be looking at Bournemouth first and foremost. That's an easy move. Don't love them anymore, but I do think someone like a Semenyo or Clivert still offer value in this team. Otherwise, you go for a real big differential, something like a Savinho at Man City if you want to chase that kind of upside. It's difficult because I don't think the midfielder pool is actually fantastic right now. So it comes down to the rest of your team. Let me know who is in your team, buddy, and I will let you know my thoughts on that one. Steamboat saying, hey Nacho, hope you well. Would you start Tosin, who has a rotation risk, or Semedo? Yeah, I have no idea whether Tosin would start for Chelsea. I'm assuming that's who you're on about. So Semedo, I think minutes are pretty locked in. I think Tosin either starts or gets 0 minutes. So I probably would lean towards Tosin and just hope for the best, because I don't see a world where he comes on. James saying, morning Nacho, keep up the great work. Start Dango or Rodgers. Okay, so Rodgers is difficult because, of course, we've got the Champions League and they've got a lot of players that can rotate in and out of that Aston Villa team. So it depends how important Unai Emery thinks that second leg is going to be. They've got the 3-1 lead. I think that's not, it's enough, but is it enough for them to be like, let's roll out our big guns in this game? I think we could see some minutes managed for Rodgers, maybe 60, 70 minutes. Dango's got the exact same situation. I probably would still go for Rodgers. Still go for Rodgers, just so I think his minutes are better than that of Dango's with the return of Evan Nielsen. Purple Snake saying bench one of Dango, Fernandes, Strand Larsen, Wood or Mbeumo. For me, I think the answer there would be Dango or Strand Larsen. And I think Strand Larsen's minutes are going to be guaranteed, so I probably would bench Dango just because of the return of Evan Nielsen. Amber saying, is there any news on Gakpo? No, unfortunately not. Slot's comments suggested that he hasn't really trained and it is basically going to be touch and go whether he's available. Regardless, I think he either starts and plays 60 or he comes on and plays 30 or gets 0. I don't see how he plays a full 90 minutes. So if I owned Gakpo myself, I probably would be in a position where I'd just be thinking selling unless your team looks great this week. Then I would start him, hope for the best, and then use him as a cash cow the following game week in the blank game week. That is probably how I would look at. Just seeing if there's any news right now on... No, nothing on Liverpool right now, and I would be surprised myself. But it says currently 8:24, so it's not too bad right now. Games and weeks are at 4:30 a.m. Kind of hard to keep track of deadline. Yeah, Betty, you must have to make such early moves. And of course, in that, then you kind of miss any team news, which is a bit of a nightmare. I definitely empathise with that. Start Dango or Enzo is my final question. I think I would go for Enzo. I think his minutes are going to be a bit more guaranteed than that of Dango. Start one of Gabriel, Aina or Robinson. I mean, I just think the Arsenal defence is still going to be highly owned, so I would go for Gabriel. James Lee needs a Chris Wood haul. I am completely against that. I do not want that to happen at my rank right now. Would you start Dango or Mikalenko? Oof. I think I'll chase the upside with Dango myself. I think I would chase the upside. Sell Cunha for Vissa? Yes, I don't mind it. Now, of course, with Vissa, he has been fantastic. His underlying numbers have always been great. You can see him here. 1.02, 0.59. And the one thing these numbers don't take into account is the amount of offside goals that he has tapped in. He's been like this far offside. On another day, he either scores them, misses them, and his numbers get massively elevated to more than what you're seeing. So I think this is great. Do I love him long term? No. But this, I think, is a good fixture. This, I think, is tough to predict, but I can see Brentford scoring. Then afterwards, very difficult. So I think this is very niche. If you're looking to wildcard in game week 31, then yes, I do like him. But do I like him over this period? Not as much. So very much a 2-game week player, but I do really like Vissa as a pick. Gakpo replacements all comes down to your budget. Now, what you could do is something like myself. Keep him for one more week and use him as a cash cow potentially to bring in someone like an Erling Haaland, similar to what I'm potentially doing with a Cunha. If you're looking for direct replacements this week, then really, in terms of the forwards available, let's just do it by price right now, just for a bit of an understanding. I'm not going to put Haaland in the debate because it's just a very niche thing with your team to be able to get to somebody like that. I think the first one I'll be asking you is, in terms of replacements, have you got Chris Wood? Very, very boring, but I just think he ticks a lot of boxes. Plays in game week 29. Wouldn't be surprised if he scores at this lunchtime. Then that's a good fixture, and game week 30 is a great fixture. Then you can choose what to do with him in game week 31 and beyond if you were looking to wildcard. Otherwise, if I was looking to go a bit cheaper, then I think someone like Vissa, as we've already discussed, is an option. Or I'll be going all the way down to Beto. Sounds pretty weird talking about Beto, but he's been really good. The numbers have been great, and the fixtures coming up over the next 2, similar to that of Vissa, are good. Then you will probably want to wildcard him out or just plop him on your bench for 4 or 5 game weeks, because that is a terrible run afterwards. But he could be back on the cards from game week 35 onwards if you're looking to hold him for that long. Wan-Bissaka or Nori to buy or start? If I was looking to start one, it would be Nori. If I was looking to buy one, now looking at the fixtures right now, we need to understand West Ham's fixtures: Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Liverpool. Comparing that to Wolves that are at the top, I would prefer Nori myself. Start Robinson or Kirkes. I've covered that one off. I think I would just lean towards Kirkes. Connor, going back to the well with Palmer. Salah with Ramadan and PSG means potential reduced minutes and Leicester just as bad as Southampton defensively. Yeah, Connor, I totally agree. I think if Cole Palmer scored 2 goals in game week 27, we would all be much more tempted with Palmer, because we know he's going to get 90. He's on penalties. He is the main man still in this Chelsea team, even though he didn't score in that 4-0 win. I mean, when we look at the numbers, let's just try and get this game up a minute for you and see if it comes up. Let's just get the Chelsea team up. So this is the Chelsea game against Southampton. Remember, this is all of the returns. Nkunku, Neto, Colwell, Cucurella, all with the goals. Tosin, Nkunku, Neto, and George with the assists. So 0 involvement with Cole Palmer. So usually, if you've got 4 goals, you've got 8 opportunities to either score or assist. He hasn't done any of those. You would expect his numbers to be pretty woeful, and you probably say Palmer just wasn't involved in anything. But if you come into the underlying numbers here, okay, so when we look at points, Cole Palmer is all the way down here. But when we look at expected goals, Palmer by far and away top at 1.05. And if we were to look at expected assists, yes, this was a game where he wasn't necessarily being creative, but end of the day, I want the guy who's scoring the goals. In terms of shot volume, 7 for Cole Palmer, 4 for Nkunku. Look, on another day, Palmer bags 2, and it's a completely different narrative here. And I love people who are going for Cole Palmer this week. I think you are showing a lot of cojones doing it. I am one that's probably a bit more scared of what could happen. Hence why I'm going for Mo Salah. I just think if I see that team sheet and Mo Salah is starting, I think that is really scary. But on the flip side, and FPL is a very fickle thing, all that it's going to take is Mo Salah to be benched, and those people that went for Cole Palmer will naturally be delighted, and we'll be making the argument of this was always going to happen. We all knew that Salah was going to get rested at some point, but I just can't take that risk right now. I just don't think I can take that risk. And I'm just taking a look at the price fallers right now. Palmer actually did fall in price to 11 million, which is quite interesting. Again, I still think Cole Palmer is perfectly fine. The captaincy, though, the captaincy on Palmer is very tempting, but I just don't think I can go there myself. And I can see on the polls here, people are in the similar boat. 82% going for Salah, 12% going for Cole Palmer right now. Captain is Isak. Brave, but I don't mind it. Emra saying, would you go for Palmer if you're chasing mini league rivals? Yes, I would in that case if you were chasing and it was a significant gap. Start Huijsen or Robinson. I think in that case, I would go for Robinson. I think he has a few more avenues to points than that of Huijsen. I still think Spurs score is worth noting. Bryn saying, hi Nacho, I brought Vissa in for Cunha. Don't mind it. Already playing Clivert and Buemo Wood. Thinking of benching Isak ahead of Dango or Vissa. Would you agree or go for Dango? I would bench Dango and I would start Isak. If Isak starts Monday night, it's a scary prospect not having him and him being on your bench. Abel saying, who is more of a minutes risk, Clivert or Dango? I think we probably have to say Dango just because of the return of Evan Nielsen. Mate, who would you bench between Clivert, Bowen and Wood? Thanks. Really tough. I would have to start Jared Bowen. Him being on penalties now with the absence of Paqueta, I think he's still the main man in this West Ham team. And of course, West Ham against a Newcastle team that are going to have no Lewis Hall, no Botman, and one eye on the cup final, I think is actually a really good opportunity to own Jared Bowen. So he'll be a guaranteed starter. Clivert versus Wood is very difficult. I would argue Clivert has the better fixture and he's on penalties, but probably less minutes than that of Chris Wood. Chris Wood, though, obviously against Man City, which is not ideal. I think personally, it'll have to start Bowen. I think it's a coin flip between Clivert and Wood. I think I probably would start Clivert. I think Spurs are really in a bad spot right now. And I think we could see, I don't think we're seeing a return of Man City, but I think we're seeing better. I think we're seeing a better Man City. I would go for benching Chris Wood, but that is such a scary prospect. And you need to understand whichever one you bench is going to be dangerous. Better or Wood to buy? Impossible for me to really decide because they have different price points, but it probably would be Wood. And in terms of starting, I would start Wood over Beto. Best goalkeeper at the moment, looking to replace Martinez. So, Gert, it depends on what your chip strategy is. Do you need him to play in game week 29 or not? If we are to get up the fixtures, because really with goalkeepers, it's all about fixtures. You don't look at underlying numbers. So, if we're looking at a goalkeeper that has to play in game week 29, then of course, we got Salah at Wolves, which is not bad. I don't actually know his price point, though. Jose Sarr is 4.3 million. I mean, that feels fantastic. If you're looking for a desperate goalkeeper, I think Jose Sa is good. But of course, are you looking to then wildcard before the doubles in 32? Because then it's an awkward one. I think Jose Sa, though, is actually a really nice pick at that price point. 4.3 million. You can't really complain with that at all. Beto Isak would one to bench. Oof, I probably would bench Beto myself. Sell Cunha to Beto. Yes, if it frees up funds for you to invest elsewhere. I'll be asking you, though, do you need him as a cash cow to bring in other players? So let me show you what I mean in that situation. So I haven't actually decided what I am doing with the rolling of my transfer, because I think when people get ahead of the game, too much can happen in FPL. Too many things can happen with injuries, different things. So I just want to show you what my game week 29 team's looking like, because I'm a perfect example of somebody who is right on the threshold of needing to free hit, but I've kind of made my bed and I've got to sleep in it now in terms of not free hitting. So I basically have got two defenders, which is not ideal at all. I'm going to assume Vandenberg won't be back for game week 29. We've got a play in four midfield of Kluivert, Palmer, Semenyo and Mbeumo. And then we got one forward because Cunha is suspended, and we got two free transfers. So obviously we need to prioritise a forward transfer, and we need to prioritise a defensive transfer. Now, game week 29 can change in many ways. If for some reason Haaland gets just not much service against Forest, and we're seeing a slight shift in maybe the focus in that team, I don't think it's the case. I think Haaland's still the main man. I can bring in someone like Marmoush and it resolves all my issues. So I think Haaland's going to be too tempting to resist. So let me show you a few ways of me getting him in. Firstly, we sell Cunha and bring in Erling Haaland, but you can see 7.5 million is needed in my team, which is a lot of money. So how do we get that money? Well, firstly, the obvious one is we sell Mo Salah. That's scary, very scary, but it gives me enough money to basically figure out this team. So what I could do is get rid of Mo Salah. Let's say we bring in someone very, very basic like a Elanga, who I think covers really well for this game week against Ipswich. It allows me to keep Alexander Isak as well, who I do think is a fantastic pick. Everyone's talking about Cole Palmer versus Mo Salah to sell if you want to go down that route. For me, I don't really have the luxury to sell Cole Palmer because he plays, and those couple of points are valuable. Now, if Vandenberg isn't fit, then regardless, I still have problems in this team where I only have two defenders. So I've got to ask myself then, with 0.4 million in the bank, is just not making a defensive transfer worthwhile? And I need to make a transfer that's also going to benefit me for game week 30, because if I just kept this team, game week 30 then looks like this. So we got Munoz away against Southampton, which is great. And I don't see any defender that I bring in, because Isak will then come in for probably Visser. Like, I don't see any defender that I buy that necessarily benches anybody else in this team. You could argue if I could get myself to someone like a Vardial, then maybe he could bench Elanga in game week 30, and then you would argue, okay, he is worth the -4. But otherwise, I don't think there are many defenders that are going to justify me making a -4. I mean, looking at the fixtures for game week 30 in isolation, the plan is to wildcard in game week 31, remember. I could bring in Nori, but I don't think that's a guaranteed clean sheet there. Vardial was very tempting because, of course, I have that. But the issue is, for me to get Vardial, I got to sell Trent. And do I want to sell Trent? Not desperately, but I could have Vardial then in this team instead of Trent, which feels okay. I don't think it's a huge benefit. So what I'm trying to say is there any point in me taking a -4 in this situation? Or would I just roll this team out, start Vandenberg and just hope for the best, and then come into game week 30 with this team, which looks really good? And of course, then Trent would come in for Vandenberg, and that team looks perfectly fine for that game week. So you can see where I'm a little bit of an issue with Erling Haaland, but I can get to him with Mo Salah being sold. Now, a few people are probably asking, is there another way of you getting Haaland? Well, there is. It would be at the expense of someone like an Alexander Isak. I could do Cunha to Haaland, and then I'd have to sell Cole Palmer. But as you can see, I don't have enough money. So if we go to someone like Elanga again as an option, I need to free up 1.8 million. That would then see me sell Trent, and I would bring in, let's say, 8 Nori, and the team would look like this. And the issue is, once again, I still have 10 players because I'm keeping Mo Salah, who doesn't have a game. So you can see the sacrifice to bring in Erling Haaland is going to be a painful one, because in order for me to get 11 players out, I kind of have to sell Mo Salah, which is going to be a really painful thing. So, as I mentioned, the plan right now, and again, it's a very loose plan because I don't really want to be getting too far ahead of the game here, is chasing it. Now, one other thing that I will mention is, if we saw sensational things from Marmoush, then he could be a consideration and he would resolve a lot of issues. Marmoush comes in for the Brighton game. The problem is I don't love the captaincy options for game week 29. I would put the captaincy on Haaland. I don't know who I'd put the captaincy on in this team. But Marmoush comes in for Cunha, which resolves a lot of issues. That comes in for that. And then I would have one free transfer to basically resolve this team. Again, the issue still is I probably would have to take a points hit in order to field 11 players. So it still is not ideal, the team. And who would I sell out of this? Probably Trent, bring in Vardial. And the team would look something like that. And I'm still down to 10 players. So what I'm trying to say is I got to take a -4 regardless. So in order for me to take a -4, it's got to be worth it. It's got to be upside chasing players. So with that, I think the highest upside is me doing this move. Cunha to Haaland, get the big upside. Then I got to free up the funds. So it probably will be doing something like Salah out. Get rid of somebody who is actually not playing in this game week. And let's bring in Elanga. Again, I don't actually know who it would be yet. Mykolenko comes in for Munoz. Semenyo comes in for Isak. And then we are stuck. If I want to bring in for a -4 to field a team, then I could easily sell a handful of players here. Trent could go. And I could bring in Vardial, which feels like a real upside pick. And that is probably the route I would go for. I think that justifies the -4. Because then in game week 30, my team would still look really strong. Vardial would be instead of Trent, but I don't think that's terrible. Isak comes in for probably Vissa. I think Elanga does better. And the team looks like this. And I'm pretty content with that. I'm pretty content. You got Erling Haaland for 2 weeks. No Mo Salah for 1, but it is what it is. And then in game week 31, we would then look to possibly use the wildcard to bring back Mo Salah if he is deemed essential. It's worth noting, where is Salah in this? So if I reset the game week a minute, you can see here, this is the problem with selling Mo Salah. The purchase price is 12.7. The current price is 13.8. And the sell price is 13.2. So if I am to sell Mo Salah, very difficult to go back there because I am losing a lot of value in him. Just something to consider. So I've rambled on enough. Let's get back to your questions. But I want to just give you guys a bit of an idea of what I plan on doing, even though it is very painful selling Mo Salah. Anyone ask about a final team? I am pretty much locked in. I will check in now to see if there is any sort of Liverpool news. And again, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Always massively appreciated. I guess the next goal is 21k, but I doubt we are going to hit that between the end of the season. But obviously, if we do, then that is awesome. But just looking right now on Twitter to see if there is anything going on. And I don't think there is at the time of recording. Nah, I can't see anything. I'll be very surprised if we were to get any Liverpool news right now. So it probably is a case of tuning in really late until the deadline to see what is going on there. So play Mykolenko. I think it's perfectly fine to go Mykolenko if you want to. Is it a great pick? It's not amazing, but I think it's perfectly fine if you need to go there. Hey Nacho, Cunha and Mateta out for Wood and Marmoush for a -4. Marmoush is a risky pick. We just don't know whether he is going to start both those games. And for a -4, I really would want to know that he's going to start this game, the game week 29 game, and the game week 30 game. If you think so, then I don't mind the -4. Yes, because, of course, Mateta and Cunha are both ruled out for this game. What is your final team? Huck is saying, this is my final team here. Will Jota play? Bryce, I think there could be a chance he's benched. If they deem him important for the PSG game, I could see Darwin Núñez starting at Southampton. Mito saying, hey man, I got one free transfer with Isak, Hall, Mateta and Gakpo as problem players. Wanted Haaland next week, but my defence is an issue. Right now, do you think I should prep for a -4 next week? So, obviously you got a problem, but I wouldn't deem Isak a problem. I would just start him like pretty much everybody else is. So your only real issues are Hall, Mateta and Gakpo. And you wanted Haaland next week. So I'm assuming if you want Haaland next week, you're not free hitting. So if that is the case, then if you can field a decent team this week, then I probably would just get through to next week and then use probably Gakpo as your cash cow to get Erling Haaland. But of course, let me know what the rest of your team's like, because you might need to force a move this week. Finn saying, morning mate, start 2 of Mykolenko, Nico Williams, or Kirkes. Well, I probably would start Kirkes, and then it comes down to Nico Williams versus Mykolenko, and I think City's attack is better than that of Wolves' so I'm going to say bench Nico Williams. Farron saying, is taking a hit worth it? I have Hall, Mateta and Kulusevski all injured. So it depends on the rest of your team, Farron. If you can bench those and start a decent 11, then I would say a hit isn't worth it. But of course, let me know the rest of your team. Difficult for me to answer. Michael saying, is if only Gakpo was fit, it could be a great differential. Yeah, Michael, I do empathise with those that have gone for Gakpo, because if he was available. Now, Slot's comment suggested that he hasn't trained and he's touch and go whether he's going to be available. That isn't ideal. If I owned him, I would be in a boat where I would just start him, because he's either going to get 30 minutes or he's going to get 0. Otherwise, you've got to ask yourself, do you wait a week, use him as a cash cow to bring in Erling Haaland, or do you just sell him and bring in Chris Wood and just have him for the next few weeks? That depends on what you want to do. Like, take my team, for example. I'm in a similar boat with like Cunha. Would have been a great game. Obviously now ruled out. I could easily just do Cunha to Chris Wood, but then I have to bench somebody in this 11, which is not ideal. And I'm using a precious free transfer where when we get to game week 29, which is a blank, I may want to use Cunha to get to a Marmoush or a Haaland. And I don't want to force my hand this week when it isn't necessary. Kanate or Gabriel, I would always lean towards the better fixture. In Kanate's case, he has the better fixture, but also a second leg in the Champions League where I feel like he's really important. So, Alessandro, I think I would start Kanate because I think he either starts or gets 0 minutes. I don't see him coming on if he's on the bench, unless there's an injury. And then that's just unlucky. Should I start Tosin or Mykolenko? I think I've covered this one, Techie. I would definitely go for Tosin because I think he either starts or he gets 0 minutes. And if he starts, obviously it is a really, really good good fixture. Jivan saying, I feel like people are overlooking Neto captain because it's also his birthday. What do you think? Well, I don't think a birthday equals goals, but I do love that idea. Look, Neto is a real differential captain. I wouldn't go there myself because I think Palmer's a better captaincy and I think Salah's a better captaincy. But if you're chasing mini leagues, then yeah, I don't mind it. Best Gordon replacement, Arnie saying, all depends on your chip strategy. The reason why I say it, look, if you are free hitting in game week 29, then I'd be saying to you, an Eze, because they got Ipswich and Southampton. But if you're not free hitting in game week 29, then Eze just cause you real problems. Wolves, top of the ticker, terrible midfield picks available. Chelsea, I couldn't recommend a midfielder option. Maybe Neto if you were chasing one game week. So then really it comes down to the rest of your team. And I think it's very difficult to find an alternative this week. But I like Eze if you are free hitting 29, but that's very niche, of course. Sell Mateta to Wood or just start Dango. Mads, it comes down to your the rest of your team. The reason why I say that is, are you free hitting in 29? Because if you're not, then you've got Mateta out for this week and for game week 29, which is going to be a problem. If you want to bring in Haaland next week, then maybe Mateta is the route to go there. And if you think you might do that, keep Mateta, use him as a cash cow next week. Otherwise, maybe Mateta to Wood resolves your issues, yes. I wouldn't be scared to start Dango. I think he gets minutes. I think he gets 30 minutes minimum, which probably is enough against Spurs. Let me rephrase, play Mykolenko or play Raul. I would always back the attacker, so I would go for Raul myself. Unless there's an injury that I'm not aware of. Ash is saying, hi Nacho, bench winner Mykolenko, Van Heck, Robinson, thanks. Okay, so Van Heck has got a home fixture, of course, against Fulham. Just putting the fixture up for people. I mean, they're all pretty bad, aren't they? They're not fantastic. So basically, I think Van Heck's got the best fixture. Robinson's got the best attacking potential. Mykolenko's kind of just a coverage pick. I probably would go all out and just start Robinson and chase the real upside personally. Bench Eze, Semenyo or Minter. Well, you are not benching Eze with that fantastic Ipswich game. Then it comes down to Semenyo versus Minter. And I think I probably would bench Semenyo controversially. I think they're all fantastic. The only one that you need to do, you have to start, is going to be Eze. Will Gakpo start? No idea on that one. I personally think he either gets 30 minutes or 0. Isak confirmed? No. And because they're kicking off Monday, we will not get that news, unfortunately. I'm just going to end the poll there a minute. And we're just going to start another poll a minute just to see. I'm going to put... Obviously, we can't know for sure, but will you own Haaland in blank game week 29? I'll put yes. Yes on free hit, because of course you might own him just for that one game week, or no. And let me know in the poll, guys. This is quite important because this is the thing. I think a lot of people are rolling their transfer this week because they have an anticipation to bring in Haaland. So let me know in the poll. Do you think you'll own him? Do you think you'll own him but on a free hit? Or do you not think you'll own him at all? I'd be really interested to know, because the reason why it is interesting, if you can be interested in FPL, is people will own him for game week 29 on a free hit against Brighton. It's worth noting. Let me just get up Brighton's results. Look, they beat Chelsea. We're talking about big teams here, so probably don't include Chelsea. Got battered against Forest. Beat United. I mean, everyone beats United. Drew against Arsenal. Drew against Villa. Beat Man City. 2-1 loss against Liverpool. Beat Newcastle. Beat Spurs. Drew against Arsenal. Beat Man United. Their track record against big teams is good. So I don't think the fixture is as fantastic as others are making out. So if you're free hitting Haaland in for 29, the problem is I don't think that's the money fixture. The money fixture is this one. But I don't see those managers free hitting in 29 and then also going to Haaland in 30 as part of a free transfer strategy. So that is my only thing I'm thinking is Haaland in 29 is going to be big owned from the free hitters. But the real one is game week 30. And that is kind of make or break. If Haaland blanks in game week 30, I think the whole thing goes basically tits up. And right now in the polls, for those that have voted, we have 40 votes. 50% are not planning on having Haaland. 37 are saying yes. And 12 are saying yes, but on a free hit. Who'd you bench out of Watkins or Bowen? I would bench neither. I need to know, Ben, who is in the starting 11 right now to justify benching one of those two. Reza saying, hi mate, Salah triple captain, good or bad? I'm going to say it's good from a fixture perspective. It's one of the best. But it's bad from, of all the times to captain Mo Salah, this is probably the one week where there are doubts about it from a minutes perspective. Look, I have to say good because, of course, it's the best fixture he can possibly have. But if I had triple captain, which I do, Have I even considered it on Salah this week? No. And that probably is the answer there. Who starts, Dango, Huijsen or Mykolenko? I would always chase the upside in someone like a Dango. I think Huijsen still concedes against Spurs, and Mykolenko is just, it's fine, isn't it? It's not fantastic, it's just fine. Aina versus City or Robinson versus Brighton? Oof. You know what? I would be tempted by Aina against City and just go all in. Went for Mamouche in for Cunha. What do you think? Yeah, like Mamouche has been an interesting pick. So let's just get up some of the numbers right now. So we got Mamouche here. I mean, his numbers per 90 minutes, his XG is 0.25 per 90, his expected assist is 0.09. I mean, look at Haaland. It's just a different beast. And that's the thing we need to remember. If you're bringing in Mamouche to cover Haaland, I think that is a dangerous game. I mean, if we get up the game which is probably skewing everything right now, which of course is the Man City game against Newcastle, where Mamouche had that fantastic hat-trick. If we look at Mamouche here, so in that game, Mamouche had a 0.72 XG and scored 3 goals. He had 4 shots. So, of course, this is kind of skewing a lot of the data right now. And Mamouche was clinical in that game. And I think he is coming into the Premier League with a reputation of being a great finisher. So we might see this at times where he puts up unbelievable hauls from expected goals that isn't necessarily matching it. But I still haven't seen enough from Mamouche to be like, oh my God, I need to own this guy. Like, looking at his numbers here, he's had 2, 2, 17, 2, 2. Now, albeit, tough game, somewhat of a tough game. So maybe we can't judge him just yet, but only 1 shot against Spurs. He had 4 against Liverpool, which is good. But then he had 1 against Arsenal, 2 against Chelsea. On the flip side, if we look at Erling Haaland, his points have been better. Shot volume hasn't been monstrous, but I just back Haaland, and I don't know if Mamouche can cover him. Start Visser or Wood? I would start Visser. I think. Peter saying, what's the team looking like? Team is on the screen here, and I'm pretty much locked in unless we get any sort of news that maybe Mo Salah is benched. Then that will really throw up carnage, basically. Just seeing if there's anybody with any predictions for Liverpool, and I can't really see much right now. Can't really see much. I'm seeing some people going Cole Palmer captaincy, and I do love it. I can't bring myself to do it. I think if Cole Palmer has that captaincy and Salah starting for Liverpool, I think that is a scary, scary prospect. Shall I use this manager this week or game week 36? Jack, you can use it this week if you want to. Like, who gives you real... I haven't actually checked this. I do apologise. Who would be your table bonus manager this week? Probably Potter. Probably would be Potter this week. So I think that's a really nice opportunity. Then in game week 29, if you're using it this week, then of course you're jumping in on this week. Who would be my table bonus manager here? Because I think that's really where you want to get the upside. I don't think there is one. So I don't think you got anything in 29. And then in game week 30, we don't really know what the table will look like when we get to this moment. But again, if I'm looking for table bonus, I mean, 29, if you want guaranteed win, you just put it on like Leicester to beat Man United. No, I don't think there's a guaranteed win here. Probably Arteta against Chelsea. But then in game week 30, who is your table bonus opportunity here? Man United to beat Forest? Don't love that. Don't think there is much. Don't think that's table bonus either, Brighton Villa. So I would hold off till later on in the season myself for the assistant manager, and we might get a double in 36. You never know. For those that like check out fpl.team, They do projected fixtures in collaboration with Planet FPL, obviously like one of the goats around in terms of content. So if you go onto here and go onto the set projected fixtures, again, James is a stickler for obviously reaffirming that these are projected fixtures, and they are rightly so projected fixtures. And we can see here there is a potential for a double in 36 that they've got, depending on the FA Cup progression of teams and all. So I would keep my assistant manager till then, and then have an opportunity to maybe stick it on some interesting games later on in the season and really chase your rank and mini leagues if you need to. That would be my preference. I see Finn's spamming the chat here. The answer would be Chris Wood. Chris Wood on that one. Double up on Bournemouth. Yeah, I don't mind it this week. Like we're saying, Bournemouth are in a position where they're playing against a Spurs team who lost the first leg of Europa League, growing pressure on Ange, and need to win the second leg. So I think this is a good game for Bournemouth. I don't know whether Ange is going to be able to roll out his best team this week. And Bournemouth are getting players back, the likes of Evan Nielsen. I like Bournemouth. Start Isak or Kluivert. I still would back Isak based on the quotes that we've seen from Eddie Howe. And I think personally Isak gets start or zero. I don't see how he's benched and then they bring him on and risk him for the cup final. I think the risk is starting him in itself, and that's what I think is probably going to happen. Start to a Kirk. Pickford or Raya this week to start. I would go Raya. Man United are awful. Start two of Kirkes, Dango or Robinson. Look, I think I probably would go for, if you want to go safe, just go Kirkes and Robinson and play it safe. But I like the upside of one of those, so I probably would go for maybe I would go double up and go Kirkes and Dango myself. If Marmoush scores and Haaland blanks this week, would that sway your decision on who to bring in for game week 29? No, I don't think it would. I'm still of the opinion that Haaland is by far and away a better pick. But of course, it isn't as simple as that. It's not a case of Haaland's better than Marmoush, therefore he is better. We need to take money into account because there is basically double the price for Erling Haaland. So we need to understand the different ways of getting Haaland and how that can impact your team. But no, I don't think anything that will happen in this Forest game would force me to go Marmoush unless we saw an injury to Haaland. I think that's the only way. Should I start Minter or Mikalenko? If you have Minter, you've got to play him. There is so much upside with that pick. If I still had the assistant manager chip, would you prefer to use it in 31 to 33 or 36 to 38? Matthew, I haven't actually done too much research into this yet, just because there's so much unknowns right now going forward with game week 32 and game week 33. So unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to park that one for now, just because if game week 33 looks great, then yeah, I would be probably leaning towards that because we don't really know what's happening in 36. So annoyingly, Matthew, we might have to come back to that question in a couple of weeks' time to answer it with confidence. So to bring in Kluivert or Semenyo, I mean, look, you're bringing in Kluivert right now at probably the worst possible time in terms of his minutes, because I think Evan Nielsen coming in impacts everybody in that team. So I would be a little bit cautious of bringing in Kluivert. I think Semenyo is the safest of the bunch. So I probably would say Semenyo as of now, if you're looking for guaranteed game time each and every week, considerable. Sell Cunha to Beto or start Mitoma and save the 1 free transfer. Save that transfer, start Mitoma. He's fit based on what we've seen from Hutzler. Leo saying, what's the Gakpo situation? Should I leave on the bench? Thanks, mate. Yeah, so Gakpo's a really interesting one. I think if I owned him, I would probably, it depends on the rest of my team, but I'd almost be tempted to start him. And the reason being is, I think with Gakpo, he either starts or he gets 0 minutes. Sorry, he could come on for 30 minutes, and that might be enough. I'd probably just start him. But it depends on the rest of your team and if you're scared of those 30 minutes that he might get. Play O'Shea or transfer Hall to 8 Nori. Who has O'Shea got? O'Shea has got... Obviously, they got Palace, which is not ideal. I think Hall to 8 Nori resolves issues for your team longer term, doesn't it? So if that is the case, I probably would go for... I probably would go for 8 Nori, yeah. I think I would. Bring in Haaland next for a -4 for Palmer, or get Marmoush and Vardiel for free. Do you know, I think that's going to be a next week decision, because I think I personally would rather get Haaland, but you're saying for a -4, and if Marmoush and Vardiel is for free, then that's a huge swing then, isn't it? But I ask you, who's your captain then in 29? That's the big question. Jack, keep the assistant manager chip. I don't think it's worth it this week. Sell Cunha to better. I've covered that one off. I think I'm going Pickford because of Cunha's red. Fair. Hey, Natural, my 3 centre-back currently is Munoz, Trent and Tosin, with Gabriel and Mikalenko on the bench. Would you sub any of them on, or leave it also on the bench? What would be the priority order? Okay, so Munoz, Trent, absolute guarantee starters. Tosin has the better fixture. Does he start? I have no idea. The one thing I will say to you is that the ownership of Arsenal defence is going to be big this week, even though it's away against Man United. Now, who would I rather have? Tosin at home against Leicester or Gabriel away against Man United? The answer would be Tosin, but I also would say Gabriel's ownership's going to be massive. The only thing going for Tosin is that I think he either starts or he gets 0 minutes. I don't see a world where he comes on. So I probably would chase the upside, go for Tosin, knowing that if he doesn't play, he probably doesn't come on. JP3, thoughts on Nacho to score away at Gifford? 0. 0 is the answer on that one. OP Talent, thank you for the super chat on that one, mate. Always on the chat, so I appreciate that. Bench 1 of Ray and Nori or Vardia. Hard to bench Josko. It is. Now, I think we need to put into account what has been the numbers for 8 Nori over the last couple of weeks. Let's take a look from game week 25. 8 Nori here per 90 minutes. So the numbers have been okay from 8 Nori, nothing fantastic. And I agree, Vardy is a very tough player to bench. Look, I think with 8 Nori, at home against Everton, very difficult to bench. But I always say this. If I've got a premium defender, I'm starting him all the time, especially someone like Vardiel. So for that reason, even though I prefer the fixture for Wolves, I just couldn't bring myself to bench Vardiel. So yes, I probably would bench 8 Nori reluctantly. Is Salah set to start 100%? Unfortunately, no idea on that one, mate. It's too early for any team news. People think we're going to get Liverpool team news. Personally, I would be very surprised if we were to see anything, and anything that is actually... anything that's actually justifiable, really. So yeah, I think we're not going to hear anything. Just checking right now. And no, I can't see anything. Bring in Marmoush or Wood this week for Gakpo. Look, I think Marmoush is massively the chasing rank. And because you put that, the answer is going to be Marmoush. But you know, if you chase rank with a pick, they are obviously riskier. And that is a risk you play with Marmoush. Will he actually play? I don't know. I do not know on that one. Peter saying, should I sell Cunha with 1 free transfer or wait till 29 and sell Palmer? Yeah, so I personally think if you have any sort of temptation doing Haaland, I would just wait a week and reassess the following with that. Sam, do I start Semenyo and Kluivert and bench Wood, or bench Semenyo and play Kluivert and Wood? Yeah, I get it. So you want a bit of coverage, don't you? Personally, I think I would go for... I think if I owned Wood, I would find it very hard to bench him. I think I probably would bench Semenyo, start Kluivert and Wood, yes. The one thing I will say is it's so hard to predict the returns in this Bournemouth attack that I get it. I would prefer Sam to just start the Bournemouth double up because I don't know who the hell scores in that front line. But I haven't owned Wood, and I think it's quite a scary prospect benching him, isn't it? So if I had to bench one of the Bournemouth 2, it probably would be Semenyo. Start Nori or Mikalenko, it has to be Nori in that situation, yes. Start Jimenez or Dango, I would go for the minutes of Jimenez myself. Dazzler with super chat, thank you Dazzler. Which one to bench, Visser, Wood, or Semenyo? So you start Visser, 100%. The fixtures are too good against a Villa team who defensively are really poor and had Champions League. Now it comes down to Wood versus Semenyo. If you don't have any other Bournemouth midfielder, I probably would start Semenyo. Otherwise, I would bench Semenyo and keep Wood as your starter. Let me know if there's any other alternatives to that question, mate. Would you start João Pedro or Dango? Thank you. Personally, I would start João Pedro myself. On penalties as well, which is a big factor in that team. Brody, would you sell Isak for Haaland without the option to wildcard? Well, I wouldn't do it this week. So I think it's something probably to decide next week. And many things can happen between now and game week 29. So the problem is if you don't have a wild card, how are you getting Isak in for the double in 32? That is the decision. Dazzlers, you have Kluivert already. Yeah, so this now comes down to a kind of like fear kind of side of things. Now, the reason why I struggle to answer this question, as I mentioned before, is that I don't own Chris Wood. And I think it'd be very scary to bench Chris Wood. So I think the safe option is start Chris Wood, bench Semenyo, play Kluivert on penalties. That makes sense. I don't think City are there defensively yet. Still got injuries. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That is what I'd go for. I'd bench Semenyo, start Kluivert, start Wood. I think if Wood scores against City and you've benched him and he's on penalties, you're just going to be like, oh, he was inevitable. And I think that is going to be painful. Whereas Semenyo, trust me, I've had Semenyo forever. This guy, like, if he does this or this, I think you just put your hands up and say, oh, it is what it is. Whereas Chris Wood is just so much more consistent. Mateta to Visser, yes. If you don't feel like you need Mateta in 30. Right, I think we're going to wrap up in 3 minutes. Any last questions, please do put them in the chat. And again, if you have enjoyed this stream, please do consider obviously subscribing to the channel. We got like another... we got another 3 minutes. So get your questions in. I'll be sure to answer them. So... well, in those 3 minutes. And anyone asking, my team is pretty much locked in unless we get news that Salah's benched. If Salah's benched, then I will put the captaincy on Cole Palmer. And would I sell Salah if I heard that? No, I still would stick with it. Yeah, I'm pretty much locked in with this team. Just seeing if there's anything here. No, I can't see anything. Okay, let's go through this quickly. Do I start Iwobi or Robinson this week and sell Cunha for Haaland in 29, 2 free transfers? So do I start Iwobi or Robinson? I probably would go for the Iwobi pick, even though I don't like either, I'm going to be honest. And yes, Cunha to Haaland, something we talk about next week, I think, because the landscape can change between now and then, Rory. Can transfer Cunha to Wood this week, or I can transfer out Cunha, Palmer, and Trent for a -4 and 29 and avoid Wood altogether. Yeah, Matthew, I think this comes down to how desperate you want Haaland. So I would leave yourself the opportunity to get him next week rather than bring in Wood. That's my own personal preference. Prang is saying Cunha for Wood now, not free hit in 29 or just roll. Also start to... yeah, so if you have no plan on getting Haaland in, or you're looking to do Isak to Haaland, that could resolve it, then yes, Cunha to Wood, I do like that move. Start 2 out of Aina, Kirkez, or Konsa. I would start Aina and Kirkez. Have way more avenues to points than that of Konsa. Theatre, I am planning to, but I'm not 100% locked in yet. Reese, hi Natural Mate, do I start Saar or Visser? Visser. Oh, Saar's got an amazing game, hasn't he, at home against Ipswich? I honestly don't know. I would say to you, who the hell are you starting over those two? Because I think they're both great. I think you have to play the Ipswich game, don't you, with Saar? But I just don't love it, mate. I don't love it. Matthew, appreciate it, mate. Brody, thanks. Love the stream. Game week 29 is going to be a headache. Could be a decision deciding week. Yes, agree. I think it is going to be classic FPL. Those that go Haaland are either going to get rewarded or completely burnt. There is no middle ground here. Gakpo and Marmouche locked in. Love it, Steve. Right, I think that's a perfect way to end this stream. So my team is locked in. I love the captaincy on Palmer for those that are going there. Personally, I just can't bring myself to do it, because if Salah is on that team sheet when they announce it, whew, that is going to be a scary prospect not having him captain. So that is the plan. Just so we got a super chat from Dazzler. I can't obviously ignore that, so thank you, Dazzler, for the super chat. Can't afford Haaland. Can Foden over Marmoush? Okay, so we'll quickly cover this one off, and this will be the last question, guys. I do apologise, but I've got to put a cap on it at some point. So thank you, Dazzler, for the super chat. So Foden's numbers over the last few weeks have been damn right awful, and very hard to predict his minutes. Whereas Marmoush has been pretty damn woeful too, apart from that game against Newcastle. What I'll say to this, Dazzler, both different positions. So I can't really pinpoint Foden is better than Marmoush, because who are you selling to go to Foden? Who are you selling to go to Marmoush? So almost impossible for me to come to some sort of conclusion on that one. But what I will say to you is, let's get to game week 29 and reassess, because lots can happen in game week 28. If somebody walks off of an injury, like a De Bruyne, we know Foden's minutes are pretty locked in. And then I would say to you, yes, I think Foden can not cover Haaland or Marmoush, but can do a great job of doing so. So let's get to game week 29 and we'll reassess there for that one. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We are going to wrap it up there. Have a great game week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Game week 29 is going to be a big one, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and I'll